Welcome, my name's David Bailey and I'm joined by Seetubtim, who is the founder of the Happiness Planner. Thank you for joining us, Mo.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'd love to first ask you, what exactly is the Happiness Planner?
Yeah, the Happiness Planner, you know what, I would just say we are an inspirational brand, a wellness brand, and our mission is to help people become more self-aware of themselves, of the people around them, of their patterns, and eventually, become happier and more whole and more fulfilled as a result.
Okay, and because I've done a little bit of work with, I know you do events and other kind of things. Could you talk a little bit about how you first began this journey and how this project got off the ground?
Yeah, so I've always been passionate about, personal development and like motivation, psychology, as well as like design, since I was a kid. And because my dad is really into personal development, like he grew up poor, and in order for him to succeed in life, he had to learn, about how his mind works, and he mastered it and he passed it on to me. So since I was a kid, like I've always been interested in personal development. I started reading self-help books when I was like a little child. And about 8 years ago, I started an inspirational blog. And initially, it was just a blog where I just wanted to keep everything that I loved, the inspirational stuff, quotes I came across. And later on, I started, writing like my own reflections, like life lessons, what I learned, and so on. And the blog kind of started growing, and it got to a point where I started receiving emails from my readers saying that, oh, I love your blog so much, like blah, blah, blah. So I asked them if I could write about one thing that makes your day, what should I write about? And a lot of people replied, actually, and they said that they wanted to learn more about how they could be more positive and happier. And to me, I was like, oh, that's so interesting, because at the time there weren't, many planners and journals, because these are the things that we sell, right? We sell inspirational planners and journals. But at the time, there were a lot of books around like the topic of positive thinking and happiness, but there weren't like tools for people to use every day. I mean, there are workbooks that you would get from your therapist, right? Like cognitive behavioral therapy, kind of reframing the way you look at things, but you get them from your therapist and they don't look as nice or cool. So I just thought, oh, you know what, yeah, that's interesting that people are still having issues with trying to be happy, even though there's so many books out there. And I realized that it's because, you can't just read a book and then change. You have to practice. It's like, people know that it's hard to change a habit, right? To quit smoking cigarette, to get into like a new exercise routine, to change your diet. But back then, people didn't realize that it's also the same way with changing the way you look at things, changing the way you feel. Like if you've been a warrior your whole life, like someone who's always worried, it's really hard to stop worrying because that's like your default pattern, or the pattern that you've been doing for so many years. So I thought about how can I come up with a tool that help people change the way they feel by helping them change the way they think, and what they focus on, because that will help them change the way they feel. And I started designing the happiness planner, the first version, in 2014, and launched it in 2015. And yeah, that was the start of the journey.
Very cool. And was that when you began your blog and you launched the first planner, was that originally in Thai or was that in English, or what was the origin exactly?
Yeah, no, it was in English. I'm originally from Thailand, but like I've been reading, and writing, even writing my own diary in English since I was
Okay,
like a teen. Yeah,
cool.
and the blog, basically, I started sharing my blog post on Huffington Post, which was very popular at the time. So most of my readers were American. So I thought, my first target market group was Americans. Yeah.
What exactly were the kind of things that you were talking about that people were interested in?
Yeah, so it was interesting because initially with the blog, I just wanted to motivate myself. I was
Hmm.
basically talking to myself through my
Okay.
own blog. And that was to motivate myself. But somehow other people came across my blog and I felt like it also helped them.
Mm.
Yeah, so a lot of it was about entrepreneurship. But the surprising thing for me again was, hey, people were more interested in positive thinking and happiness than entrepreneurship. And that's when I started shifting the focus of, my whole inspirational thing. Yeah.
Okay, so prior to launching the Happiness Planner, was you an entrepreneur, or what exactly were you doing?
Yeah, so I had a full-time job after I finished, university. And I guess I was trying to, because to transition from being a full-time employee to an entrepreneur, you need to change a whole lot of the way you think, the
Mm.
way you feel about security, about salaries, about time and value and money. So I was basically trying to change the way I think, the way I thought, and yeah, that was it for me. Like I knew I wanted to have my own business, but it was also like scary. And I was like, how can I change the way I thought, that I would just take a leap of faith and really jump into this? Yeah.
Okay, so in that conversation you were having through the blog, which was kind of coaching yourself, it was inspiring others.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of the rules of life, right? Whatever you want other people to feel, go first, and that obviously really resonated through what you were sharing.
Yeah. I mean, right now, if I was to write a blog, it would still come from my current emotions or, life situation that I'm going through, but I now write it in a way where I write for a huge audience
Hmm.
instead of just making it sound super personal. Yeah.
What's the difference for writing it super personal and writing it for a huge audience?
I would say I need to take into account more, different scenarios, different personality traits. And I don't always use the word like I, you know what I mean? Like I this, I that, but I would use it more like we or they, or usually we,
Hmm.
because we, I, and the readers, we, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, that's how I do it. And I have to think of, also like, be more careful with what I say as well, because I might get some backlash if I think about a situation from, my own perspective only. So I have to be, um, how do you say it? I have to look at things from all angles. Yeah, because my email list is really big. I
Yeah.
really need to be more careful when I send a blog post. Yeah.
Okay. So you're putting yourself in the shoes of your audience.
Yeah.
And how has the happiness planner like evolved from 2015? Because I imagine when you first started, it was yourself and what you thought would work for you. So what changes, what things surprised you, what things worked, what things didn't work, and how's that evolved?
hmm Yeah. You know what? It's funny because like a lot of the things that I thought, like I dreamed of having or building, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, are now kind of coming true, or they have slowly come true. But at the time when I thought, oh, it would be cool if I could have that, I I never even thought like it was going to be impossible. But I just, it just seemed so far fetched at the time.
Hmm.
But slowly, like step by step, everything that I thought of years ago slowly come true. So we started off with the first version, which is 100-day happiness planner, because we released it in March, April. So it's not like, November, December. And also I thought 100 days, a good length of time to change a habit, right? I
Mm.
think to change a habit, you need to do that new habit for at least 30 days. And then you
Yeah.
have to keep continue doing for like another 60 days until it starts to feel more normal.
Mm.
So 100 days is a good time for people to set a new goal and like to achieve the goal. And so after we released it, the first group of customers who were the original blog readers came back to us and said that they've become a lot happier after using it. It works. They love it. So I thought, oh, okay, so now I'm going to take this concept and turn it into a mobile app. So I took the book to an app designer and said, hey, can you help me, create like UX UI design for the book in terms of an app. And then after that, obviously we had to release the January to December version for the following year. And then after that, we started getting a lot of competitors actually. So I think a lot of people got inspired by what we're doing, and they, started creating their own journals. So I thought, oh, how can we continue to be different? How can we continue to be the best in this field? And we have to pick our unique value proposition. And I thought, you know what, how we really gonna be is we're just gonna be the deepest like journals. Like our journals are gonna have the deepest content, compared to the other journals that started popping up after us. And that's still our thing, I would say, because it's easy to just come up with a cute planner with probably a better looking cover, better materials, but the content, like the writing in each and every page, it's written by me and the people in our team, so it's really, really hard to copy. Yeah.
Hmm. And what kind of stuff is there in the actual journal? Could you give us a flavor of some of the content?
Yeah. So when we started launching the journals, it was kind of like, I thought, in order for us to be happy, like practicing gratitude and positive thinking is not enough. That's
Hmm.
like basic level. We're all complex. We all have these like childhood and upbringing and, stuff in the past that we have to dig through and heal from. And, we all have different personality traits as well, and I don't, like just different people have different areas that they would like to work on. So I
Hmm.
started thinking about, okay, what are the most common areas that people could start working on to be happier? And I thought, okay, self-awareness, one thing, finding purpose in life, growth mindset, changing from having a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, practicing law of attraction, gratitude, and what's the other one? Confidence. Yeah, so that's
Mm-hmm.
quite a basic thing, like if you feel more confident, then you'll be happier to pursue your like in your life, and you have more courage to pursue your goals really. So these are the first six guided journals that we released in, I think it was 2017. I'm not too sure, but yeah, that was the first set that we released. And people loved it. So like the following year, I'm like, okay, now we need to go even deeper. Like we've touched on the surface, we're gonna go deeper. So the next six we released anxiety healing, self-love, resilience, relationship, and mindfulness. And then the last six that we released um, this year was abundance, acceptance, self-esteem, courage, dreams, and what's the other one? I can't even think of it. But they just get
Hmm.
deeper and deeper, and basically, because I think like like that's it. Just and for me as well personally, like maybe initially I thought I just wanted to focus on becoming an entrepreneur, and how can I change the way I think and the way I look at things around me and the values of things around me, and be able to just be an entrepreneur. But then as I started, helping my customers and doing more research, I also dig deeper into myself and realize that like, oh, I still have my own issues that I need to work on. And
Hmm.
unless I work on these issues myself, I will not be able to help my customers, because unless I understand myself, I will not understand my customers. So it also, yeah, kind of like, I peel the layers of complexity and the traumas that I have. And and with that, like I get deeper into the content that I develop for the products, for the brand as well.
So it sounds like in a way actually a similar process to how that blog began in your exploration of these topics which you have a personal interest in, and um, evolving yourself and sharing that content obviously in a more uh, practical way through the journals, that is what is that the happiness planner, and that's how you evolve personally and also help the audience grow with you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And how did the mobile app go? Is there any major differences between the physical? I mean, obviously it's on your phone, but are there any other differences between that and the actual physical journal?
Yeah, so the mobile has it's like a combination of the planner and the guided journals. But now we also have workshops, which we run. We started doing this just at the beginning of the pandemic because I thought that was, a great time to launch online workshops. And now we have 10 workshops per month that we do, and we just basically feature different coaches and therapists that we love, and we want to introduce them to our customers. And yeah, and it's just like, like a 1 hour workshop, and all the recordings are available for people to rewatch as well if they would like to. Um, so yeah, I think it's good. You know what? I think now that I think of it, it's something that we want to focus on more in the future, because not a lot of I don't see anybody else doing what we're doing. Like I think um, there are like Coursera and stuff, and they have like proper courses, right? And there's like Mind Valley where they have some talks, but I feel like that talks are more, it's like the speakers on the stage, and then they have the recordings for people to watch.
Mm,
So for us, it's kind of more personal, and I kind of, it's been 6 years, so I've also come to learn about who my customers are as well. Most of our customers are more introverted, so even when we do workshops, the majority of them don't want to turn on the camera. um it like people quite engaged with the workshops. Actually, they would chat, they would type in a chat. Not
mm.
too many people speak up. I think they're more introverted. Most of them are extremely empathetic. They're probably sensitive souls, and maybe that's why they're drawn to this brand and personal development and self-awareness as well. um yeah, because there have been, like, discussions where we talk about different strengths and weaknesses, and a lot of our customers said that that strength is like empathy.
Okay. Yeah. And do you get many people from Thailand? Because I know you're from Thailand. I'm living in Thailand. I'm just curious because I know that, relatively speaking, the personal development world is maybe less mature here than it is maybe in, say, the UK or the States. So your dad must have been quite a pioneer.
Yeah, I mean, the app is actually available in Thai, but we haven't done much marketing, but I've looked at a few YouTubers that, okay, when we're ready, we would love to work with them and get them to promote the app to the Thai audience. But yeah, I think for now we want to focus on the English speaking market, maybe Europeans as well, like German, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, but yeah, English primarily. And I think we need to nail this English market first, and and then we will. Well, we do need enough to have enough money to expand the team as well, so that's important.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, how did your dad get into personal development, and what kind of stuff was he listening or watching at the time?
Yeah, so he grew up in Kanchanaburi, and
Yeah.
his parents are farmers actually, and they all, and all of his siblings are teachers, and at the time, like a kind of a respectable careers choices
Hmm.
that people in the countryside want their kids to have are either you become a teacher, doctor, engineer, or policeman. And my
You
dad
forgot
was like,
lawyer.
yeah. Well, I think in Thailand is not like a thing,
Okay.
yeah, I think they're just more like they're just somehow they like teachers, being
Yeah.
teachers. So my dad was like, I don't want to do one of these things. I want to. He already had his mindset on what he wanted to do, and so that's why he also understands me when my mom really wanted me to be a doctor, and I just didn't want to be a doctor, and how I felt and emotionally being
Hmm.
pushed to become something I didn't want to be. So he was always like, I understand you, blah blah blah, follow your dreams. And for him, He basically, the first thing he did was he worked really hard to get a scholarship to move to Bangkok and study. So he got a scholarship to get into Chulalongkorn University, which is like the #1 university. So he moved, and then he also started reading stuff in English. And for like a kid from the countryside, in Thailand, it's not easy, but he learned English on his own, and he could speak English really well, so he could read books from all over the world. And he always told me that if you want to go really far in life, you need to be able to speak English. And so that was one of the first things. And then, he graduated from university. He also managed to become an athlete to a point where he was a national marathon runner. Like he was kind of scouted to go for the Olympics. And then he kind of got to this point where he had to pick between going for the Olympics or going down the business path. And he decided to go down the business path. And then with also as well to become a national marathon runner, he had to learn how do you say this? How to be the best he could be, right? Like to be an athlete, you need to fight with your own mind. It's all about you competing with yourself. So with that, he learned a lot about how to build willpower, how to be determined, how to be disciplined, how to keep improving his own stamina physically, emotionally, mentally. And then he applied what he learned from sports to life and to his business and career as well. So that's and he kind of actually got offered a job in the United States. So he moved there for a bit and got offered a green card, and I was conceived there, but he didn't like living in the US, so he moved back to Thailand.
Yeah. Wow, that's quite a story, because I know, probably back in those days it was not the availability of the kind of books that he would have been reading would have been much harder to come across than today, and also like I know, because I'm here in Thailand, that's just definitely not a normal regular kind of thing that someone from the countryside would do to seek out personal development and probably overcome some kind of class prejudices getting into Chula and such. So that very inspirational.
Thank you. Yeah, he was my hero. I was like, yeah.
And what does he think of the kind of the happiness planner? Does he read it himself? Does he have an opinion? Does he give you any suggestions? Or what's the deal with that?
Yeah, he actually, you know what? I think he kind of lost. He kind of like couldn't keep up with what we've been doing for the past few years. Like, he kind of stopped at like the 100-day happiness planner version, and somehow I think I haven't really updated him on what we're doing now. And now my sister's working with me, and actually before I came back to Paris, I was in Thailand and staying at his house, and he was like, can you guys explain to me what you're doing? Yes, I can see that you are busy. So I had to explain to him what these journals are. I think like in terms of personal development, I've gone beyond of what he's learned, because what he's learned was more about growth mindset, how to be like the smartest person you could be in the shortest amount of time. That was like kind of his thing. But and then he, as he got older, he become more spiritual, he become more like Buddhist, where he start being more calm and observing thoughts and emotions and stuff like that. But yeah, like I had to explain to him, like, these are the guided journals and how they work, this is how they work. He's like, oh, okay, interesting. I think he just listened, he was in.
And have you shared that he was an inspiration for you?
Yeah, oh, he knows. Yeah, he knows. I told him I'm going to write a book. I've been meaning to write a book many times, and a lot of it is going to be like about what I learned from him as well. So I told him that. Yeah.
That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
And so what's the plan going forward for the next evolution of the happiness planner?
Yeah, so we want to keep going with, releasing new guided journals. we do need to make our app better in terms of we just have such limited resources. But hopefully we'll be able to grow it exponentially in the very near future. We just signed two really good deals in the US. And I think this is going to bring a lot of awareness to our brand at the end of the year and next year. So I'm hoping, I don't want to say it yet because it's like I'm going to jinx it. But like I know I have this one brand or family in mind that I'm like, I want them to, if I was to get an investor on board, they're going to be the investor.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's how I see it. I just want to keep growing, personal development, and also actually, as I get older, our team members get older, our customers get older. A lot of us are now getting pregnant, not me yet, but getting pregnant and having babies. So I think the next step for the brand is, over the next 2 years, we will start getting into the moms market as well. I'm extremely passionate about child development and cognitive development for the
Hmm.
children. So yeah, we do want to get into that, and be that that leading brand of hub of resources for personal development for children, teenagers, and little babies and moms and parents, and available in English and in other languages as well. So that's really my goal. I just want it to be available worldwide. Yeah.
Mm. What for you has been your biggest insights? Because you mentioned like these different journals focused on different aspects of lives, and you've done the work yourself. So what personally for you have been, I should say, the three biggest insights from having created these journals, gone through the content, and had that experience yourself?
Yeah. The biggest insights. Okay, I'll say maybe like the most recent ones, and it's really like we've all heard of, how everything on the outside is a reflection of what's inside. And it's so true, it's like if you haven't healed your traumas with your parents, you're just going to keep seeing flaws in your partner or in your partner's parents. And let's say if you haven't healed the traumas that you have with your own mother, maybe you will subconsciously still feel like your partner's mom or your friend's mom is a bitch, something like that, for example. So it's all a reflection of what's going on within, and unless we heal that, either completely like accept, and a lot of it comes down to acceptance, to be honest. And actually I can say this. So one surprising insight that I found is, a lot of the childhood conflicts that happen, well, we might feel like our parents were bad or didn't understand us or whatever, a lot of these were actually due to personality differences. For example, if you are an extremely sensitive person and your parents are just super logical and they're not naturally sensitive, as a child, you would have felt like my parents didn't love me. They didn't care about me enough. But it's because they're not naturally sensitive, like the things that you cared about, they didn't care about. And it's when you do more studies into not just your own personality traits, but also other personality traits, that's when you realize like, oh, my parents weren't bad. We're just different. And no matter
Mm.
what, they will never feel what I feel because I am just a lot more sensitive than they are. And it's just making peace with that fact, right? Or like the way you communicate or they communicate. A lot of it are just actually due to differences. And so that's actually like our goal with 2022's planners. We want to bring more understandings amongst families and close friends, because I think if you can understand yourself as well as your family members and the important people in your life better, you will be able to have better relationships.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I think there is, to a lot of trauma, there's an arbitrary nature which, when we experience it, it feels incredibly personal and like somehow something to do with us. But in most instances, it's arbitrary. Like, for example, if you're bullied, that's got really little to do with you, because if you're being
Mm-hmm.
bullied, that's something to do with the other person, and whatever their insecurities or projections or need for trying to feel powerful are. But it can leave deep scars where we think, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm this and that. But when you see it from a different perspective, it's like, actually, that's really arbitrary. I didn't choose to go to that school or be in that seat in that class. That was nothing to do with me. And that person, I didn't choose that their mum was alcoholic and that's why they took that out on me. But it can feel incredibly personal. And I think, as you said, when you can see the impersonal nature to things that maybe feel incredibly personal and are traumas, of course, they don't disappear immediately, but it can open up the door to beginning to change the narrative around it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think actually, to be honest, this pandemic has made a lot of people become closer to their family. I know like we adults who don't really live near our parents, right? When we go back to visit them, we stay for like a few days because then we just kind of feel like, oh my God, more than a few days, too much. But then because the pandemic has made many of us like unable to travel for like at least a year to see our family. And
Hmm.
then so when we see them, we spend more time with them. And a lot of stuff from the past might come up, but I think now we've had all these times in lockdowns and we do more reflections. And at the end of the day, we just kind of realize that, like, hey, you know what, like, our parents had their own shit, we have our own shits, and we should just put them behind and just, yeah, like, just feel more harmonious relationships moving forward.
Yeah, yeah, I had that experience too. I was back in the UK living with my parents for the longest time I've done since I can't remember, many years. And initially it was, well, initially it was good, but then after the first couple of weeks, yeah, you notice these triggers and you realize, oh, hang on a sec, like they've been there all along. I just haven't got through that because I've just not been avoiding my parents, but not been in their company long enough to recognize them. So it was an opportunity to try and grow beyond that.
Yeah, 100%. And it's such an amazing feeling when it's like, something that used to trigger you and you are able to just be like calm. I used
Mm,
to get so triggered by my mom just because when I was a kid, she was just, kind of bossy, and I didn't like that. But now it's just kind of like when I can just not be triggered and be like, Mom, I'm not 16 anymore. I'm 33. And like we both are able to just stay calm and communicate calmly. You feel like when you've gained more power over your own emotional management, like you
mm,
feel such like a strong power like over yourself.
absolutely, yeah. I think it's, if anyone thinks they're evolved, go like stay with their folks for like 3 months. And that is so important because, as you said, that relationship with your parents, 110%, it will affect your relationship with your romantic other and probably friendships and probably work dynamics. And it's so important to the best of your ability, try to create a better relationship if possible.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. And yeah, and to be honest, like I started staying with my dad. Usually I would stay with my mom, and then my dad had a new girlfriend years ago. They're not together anymore, but he's single again, and I decided that like maybe I'll go stay at his house instead because he's now single and we used to be super close. And yeah, we got closer again, and it makes me feel much more, especially living overseas on my own, like feeling like, oh, actually, my parents really do love me and accept me no matter what. It gives you such a sense of security, than if you didn't have that good relationship with your parents.
Yeah, absolutely. And one final question. I know you travel a lot. What have you learned from traveling?
Yeah. You know what, being in Thailand with a strict mom, as a Thai girl, I dreamed of traveling the world. I dreamed of seeing the world. This was like my childhood dream. Like I really want to, because I'm curious about psychology. So for me, I don't like going on 5-day vacations. I'd like to go and live somewhere and really understand the culture, right? And that's what I've been able to do with the happiness planner. And I've learned the biggest thing I've learned from travel is that there's no right or wrong. They're just differences, because from living in different countries, I can see how one country thinks this way of doing things is right. Another country thinks this way of doing things is right. And no one is wrong. It's just differences, even in the United States, right? There's like this left wing, right wing, whatever. There's like no one is wrong. No one is more stupid. It's just differences. And that's when I learned to just always listen and see things with an open mind and never make judgments, really, because it just everybody's opinions of something is based on their own experiences. So that's something that I've learned. In my plan, to be honest, I stopped planning too far ahead.
Just 100 days.
Yeah, I'm planning 6 months, 3 months at a time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And if people want to get a hold of the Happiness Planner, get a copy or download the app, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, just go to thehappinessplanner.com. Yeah, or Instagram at Happiness Planner, and you'll find everything. Or just look up Happiness Planner in the App Store.
Cool. Thank you very much. Great speaking to you, Mo.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, hit the bell button to be updated on all the latest videos. You can check me out on Instagram at David Bailey Life Coach.